Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 84, Get Serious About Your Why. So all month, as you know, we've been focusing on the power of possible, getting clear with what you want to do with your life, how you want to roll that out, and what are some ways you can help yourself do that. This week, I'd like to finish up the month of January and focus on your why. Like, what is the driving force behind what you do? Because if you've listened to me enough, you know by now that I think a sense of purpose is what helps us get out of bed, helps us to define who we are, helps us to feel like a part of something larger than ourselves, and therefore we feel belongingness, we feel connected. We feel grounded and more secure, and damn it, we feel more alive. That's why I think this is important. So this is a little bit of a heady episode, and my encouragement is take from it whatever resonates and leave behind whatever doesn't. Before we jump in, I just want to take a moment and pause and recognize the struggle out there is real for a lot of you, and I commend your courage to be listening to this, because that tells me that no matter what is going on with the pandemic in your life and economically and social justice wise and politically and all that stress, you still are taking time to focus on you. And we have to do that no matter what's going on, because that's the only way we create change in the world is by creating change within ourselves. All right, so getting serious about your why. So remember last week we talked about how it's important to focus on what you believe and what you believe about yourself. Well, I want you to focus this week on telling your brain the truth. Telling your brain the truth about you, finally, and completely. And telling your brain your truth, what matters to you, and who cares what anyone else thinks at this point. So telling your brain your truth. What your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your choices, your concerns, your desires are. If you tell it enough, it has to believe you. That's the thing that we understand now with new brain science, is we can create new neural pathways. You just have to do a lot of efforting in the beginning. And you have to convince your subconscious that, no, this is true. And this is why this is true for me. So what's important is we want to attach emotion to it. That is really important. That helps us remember. It helps motivate us when we really need that. We want to connect both hemispheres of the brain. Cement it. Attach yourself to it. Affirm it over and over again throughout the day, throughout the week. Write it, speak it, listen to it, focus on it, envision it, feel it, taste it, live in it as much as you possibly can, even if it's not here yet for you, so to speak. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Pretend as if it already is. Like we talked about last week, the more often you perform an action or behave in a certain way, the more it gets physically wired into your brain. So we have to emotionally, get focused, but then we're going to physiologically actually wire it into the brain, and that's pretty cool. Soak this up. This will really help drive the bus. It's going to keep you motivated when you want to fall off the horse. It's going to help you have great ideas, problem solve, so that you can be true to what you say matters to you the most. And where does your why come from? Now, you might need to take more time than just today to really to be able to tell that story, and that's okay. Take your time. Oftentimes, our sense of purpose, our sense of why, things we care about, things that matter, can often originate from things we have overcome, things you have experienced, be it negative or positive. These are things that really shaped your thinking and maybe your life. Some folks call them defining moments. They could be tragic to very joyous and anything in between, but usually it's when there's strong emotion attached to it. Remember, we just talked about connecting both sides of your brain? Yep. So things that you have walked through and experienced and walked away with a belief about it, right? Remember, thoughts are things, beliefs make them so. It's whatever you concluded about that experience. These could be things like, I don't ever want to have that happen to me again. Someone who grew up poor and was teased about their clothing, or remembers mom and dad fighting, or how stressful it was, or how scared they were. Those are the people that are often, many times, driven, fiercely driven to be very financially successful in their adult life. And they will super achieve to get there because they're running as fast as they can from being poor. Well, there's a big driver for that person. There's a why, right? So what did you experience? What do you not want to experience again, or you want more of? Some people have very joyous memories and experiences, and they want to recreate that. A typical example is you had great vacations when you were a kid, and you want to take your own kids to the same beach or the same spot because you want to have them experience the same. Maybe it's something you witnessed that happened to another. A lot of people can go into medicine or law enforcement because something happened to a family member and they didn't like that powerless feeling of not being able to help, or at least help someone else if they couldn't help their own parent or loved one. So there's a new empathy. Maybe you know what it feels like to have experienced tragedy or loss, or even redemption and change, a second chance. Obviously you lived through it to be here, and you feel the value of that. I often get to witness that when people do some deep personal work in either therapy or coaching, and they come out the other side saying, oh, wow, I want everyone to feel this good. I want everyone to have this kind of confidence, Mary, or have a healthy like I have, or the success that I'm experiencing. So then you feel a longing to pay it forward somehow, to give that person, the people, or the circumstance that you experienced to live on through your life so that others can see the value and be helped by it, is your hope. When we heal, I think we feel so much more empowered. And I think the more empowered we feel, the more we want to pull others up and we want them to have the same. Think about that for a moment. Empowered people have no desire to tear another down. You ever notice when you're having a really good day how much more helpful you are? You can turn outward and focus on others' well-being for a moment. Conversely, when we're having a very bad day, we're turned inward often. We're shame-based. We're wallowing. We're in fear. We're in disappointment, anger, self-loathing, those things. So it's really hard to not be myopic. So the more empowered you feel, the more you might want to share that with the world. Another way to know is I want you to think about, when are you at your best? And other people will notice this. This is really hard to hide. They say there are two things you can't hide, having a cold and being in love. Well, I would add number 3 is when you are in your dharma, when you're in your zone, people just experience it. In fact, they'll probably be drawn to you. It's when you're the most energized, the most peaceful, happy, the most laid back, relaxed, in the moment, creative. Keep going. There's a whole list of things. When are you at your best? When does time go by so fast that it blows your mind? What are you doing? Where are you? Who's there? Who's not there? And what are you passionate about? And where does this come from, do you think? And this doesn't have to be your life's work. It could be you're doing a hobby, you're doing some service work on the side, you're just holding your child, you're connecting with friends. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it's when you are more present and you feel more complete. These are the things we have to pay attention to because they will show us where our sense of purpose is and where is our why. Like if you feel so alive when you're with the people you love, that tells you that relationship is crucial to you. You get energy from it. You are fed. You feed others by it. You learn, you grow, you feel loved, connected. This is interwoven, like we've spoken about before, about, what are your top values? Like maybe your top 5. We talked about beliefs and values in previous episodes. So if you haven't listened to those, I encourage you to scroll back through and find those, and I'll put those in the show notes as well. It's always good to do a refresher anyway, if it's been a while. What are your top values? If relationship is a top value for someone, for example, they're going to want to spend time and give energy to those they love and care about. Even those that they maybe supervise at work or work with. Maybe those they serve in the community. So what have you figured out by now? Like what matters to you and why? What are those things? Don't worry about what others might think of that. All I care about is what you think of it. Take your time. If you have a few close people in your life who are healthy enough to love you enough to be honest, right? And be gentle, but also give you accurate feedback, ask them, say, what would you say that I'm most passionate about and why? Like, how do you see that in my life? What have you experienced with me? Like, my friends know exactly what I'm passionate about because I can't hide it. Talking about this stuff obviously is one of them, right? Or I wouldn't be doing a podcast on it. So ask them to give you some loving feedback that might help confirm what you kind of secretly already knew, but maybe were embarrassed to own. I don't know. You might be surprised. What do you prioritize? There's that quote a client ran by me the other day, priorities show themselves. So what we prioritize is showing up in our life, right? Like, what are we paying attention to? What do we put before something else? What do we absolutely make sure gets done every week kind of thing? What you make time for, throw energy or money at, is what you prioritize. Think about that for a moment. Is that what you want to prioritize? Because I have sat with many people over the years who felt obligated to prioritize either certain duties or relationships or a type of career, and they were miserable. Their heart wasn't in it. They were obligated, they were rules-based, they did it because they were responsible, but I want your heart to be in it. I want you to feel good about what you prioritize. And if you don't, you can take a loving look at that and maybe start to make some changes. And that's going to be a game changer for you. What do you focus on and talk about? Again, you can ask your friends. What do they think matters to you and how do they know that? And believe me, they will be able to tell you because they're around you. They know what you bring up as a topic of conversation more often than not. They know what gets you excited, what you have fierce opinions about, what you get upset about, what you're into, what you keep learning about. There's lots of ways we can show that. And also the work that you do. Maybe it's your day job. Maybe it's stuff you do on the weekends. I don't know. But look at your work. That'll show you your why. Okay. When you think about getting solid with your why, if it isn't already interwoven into your life, I want you to think about how you might make that happen. Slowly but surely. That's a really fun exercise to do. And finally, how you interact with the world, those close to you in the larger community. Do you see yourself as a part of larger groups? Like your family, maybe your extended family, your neighborhood, your work group, your church group, your larger community. How do you identify yourself and what do you feel a part of? We know belongingness is so important. And guys, I can tell you it is. I talk to enough people every week. It is extremely important. During COVID, a lot of us are struggling with that feeling of connection because we're not able to see and hug and hang out with and have dinner with the people we normally did. And I would dare say, even people you don't know, just being around other humans, right? Going to a restaurant, there's other families celebrating a birthday. We don't realize, but we take that in. That helps us feel more grounded. It helps us feel like we're not alone. We may not know those folks 2 tables down, but we can identify and be happy for someone celebrating a 40-year anniversary, let's say. We connect, we identify socially with them. So when we're getting solid with our why, what is recommended is we create a kind of purpose statement that encapsulates what our why is, kind of like your elevator speech, what do you do kind of thing. It's kind of a fun thing to do if you haven't already done it. You want it to be short, sweet, and complete. Doesn't have to be this long thing. You don't want it to be this long thing because you're not going to remember it, and to hell if you're going to be able to share that with anyone. So some examples would be, I want my life to show how much I care about my family and my community. Or I want to demonstrate how important social justice is to me. Or I really care about financial freedom and I really want to help others find the same, especially those who are financially struggling. These are purpose statements. They don't have to encapsulate everything in your life, but what is a driving force? And what is a driving force today? Because I want to speak out to those of you who struggle with a little bit of perfectionism there, where you're going to hem and haw and not write anything down because you are so terrified it's not going to be perfect. I just want you to listen to your heart and just see whatever comes up. Whatever comes up. Perfect is an illusion, guys. It doesn't exist. Think about what's good enough for today, and you can always change it tomorrow. It's all good. The whole journey is about finding out who we are slowly over time. Don't take the fun out of the journey by trying to get it all perfect today, and I mean that. So when we get clear about our why, I think it helps to both motivate and define what we prioritize and where we expend our energy. And then here comes the real work, which means attaining the goal to make our life feel congruent with what matters most to us. You've heard me allude to that in previous episodes, but I really want to get down into it right now because this matters. So that if someone is peeking into your life from the outside, what would they see? I mean, they're definitely going to see what matters to us, whether we want to agree with that or not, whether we like that or not. And they would not see too many contradictions if our life was really congruent. Not perfect, but good enough. For example, like if you say you value your kids' self-esteem, I don't think people would be seeing you screaming at them and shaming them several times a week because they're not cleaning up their stuff or not behaving. I'm not saying you're not going to have a bad day. Everyone has a bad day. Everyone has said things to their kid that they wish they hadn't. I'm talking about in general on average. They'd be peeking in your kitchen window, creepy as that may seem, and they would probably see you working really hard to be emotionally present and not distracted and expressing empathy to your kid even though you're so upset with them. They'd see you kneeling down on the kitchen floor with your toddler so you can be eye level. They would see you giving them hugs. You would have boundaries, but you'd be showing understanding. You'd be showing genuine interest. That's what they would see. And you would feel tremendously better getting that into alignment. If you said you wanted to live healthier, they would see you having better health habits, perhaps. Maybe eating a little better. Maybe cooking more. Maybe making time for exercise and well-being and rest, and meditation and going for walks, and playing, making time for play. It may take us a while to get everything to kind of work together. And what's so important is as we get clearer about who we are and what we want, we organically begin to weed out the things that may no longer fit. And I know that can be really hard and really difficult. I sit with people every week and they look at me and say, Mary, why didn't you tell me that I was going to have to let go of relationships and want to change jobs and so on and so forth, and maybe not talk to a family member for a while till they get it together. And I say, you just organically outgrow, honey. That's what we do. We grow, and therefore we outgrow. We outgrow the unhealthy relationships. We outgrow the clutter in our house. We outgrow the emotional immaturity in our communication when we're freaking out and upset. We outgrow the unnecessary spending, the procrastination, the ways we self-sabotage. We desire more and better for ourselves. When we grow, we raise the bar. And when we grow, we yearn for congruence. We need to make sense. We need to love and trust ourselves. And we need to believe in who we say we are and or who we say we want to become. Because I think we're always becoming. So don't worry about not being there yet. Loving and trusting yourself by honoring what matters most to you is a journey and a process and a fun one. So give yourself time to do this. You know, you're going to incur a lot of letting go in this process. Remember, we just talked about outgrowing. You're going to be doing some grief work there. We have to. There's no way around it. And not everyone's going to be happy that you're getting your stuff together. We've talked about that before, too. The more unhealthy the person in your life, oh boy, look out. They're going to feel threatened by your growth because deep down they don't feel good enough for you to keep them in your life. They'll never tell you that, perhaps, but they don't have control. Others who are healthier, of course, understand, they might be a little jealous, and maybe they'll follow suit. Hopefully they do. You might also be anxious about changing. Getting real with ourselves is a risk. What if you choose wrong? What if they think you're crazy? What if you think you're crazy? What if you wake up 2 weeks from now and say, oh man, what did I do? Am I nuts? You're not. Trust your gut. Trust your heart. Take your time. Listen to your intuition. See where it slowly and quietly leads you. See what little thought just keeps pecking at you very quietly in the back of your mind, but it won't go away. Those are the ones we pay attention to. You know every time you didn't, that you could kick yourself. Remember? When you didn't listen to that quiet voice saying, you sure you want to do that? Or, ooh, let's try this. Let's take that risk. Let's honor ourselves. Let's do something so out of the box that maybe we will think we're crazy for a moment. But I promise you, though, you're going to sleep better. You're going to feel lighter and more energized as you go. You're going to feel so much less cluttered in your heart and mind with thoughts, feelings, behaviors, obligations that no longer suit you. You're going to let go. You're going to feel happier and less anxious. How many times have I sat with people over the years with panic attacks until they got honest with themselves and dealt with something? And then sure enough, no more panic. And that's no coincidence. Because you're going to feel like you finally make sense. Kind of like you did when you were 4 and you knew exactly who you were. And you're going to feel kinder, more connecting and generous towards others because you're going to have less to hide in your relationships. Even if you're not conscious that you're hiding part of who you are. If you're not congruent, you're hiding. We have to. We don't have a choice. We don't want them to ask us those really tough questions or point out contradictions in our life. Like maybe we're really smart and talented and educated, but we're dating someone who doesn't care about any of that stuff or isn't like-minded. We don't want it pointed out to us when we're settling. I have that unhappy duty often with clients, and I do it in the most loving way that I can, and I normalize it, and I try to take the shame out of it, but it still stings. So you're going to be nicer to be around. You're going to have more emotional bandwidth for others because you're going to be healing within. So today we talked about just how imperative it is to get clear with our why. What drives our life? What we love, what we care most about, where we get energized, where that comes from. It's kind of what drives the hero in the journey in the great epic movies, remember? I encourage you to let it slowly define you as you mold and shape, as you fold in the new cool stuff that you want to have in your life, and you let go of the things that you don't. It's a giant buffet of life. Take your time. Choose wisely. Let your heart guide you. Be peaceful about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. May you stay healthy, grounded. Keep holding on to hope. Keep working on you. Focus on reaching out and loving others this week. Be sure to check the show notes at ownitpowercast.com. Sign up for the newsletter each Tuesday. That's where you'll find the bonus downloads. All right, so pay it forward. Keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.